Other pilots hated her because of her skin color. What happens next will shock you. The morning sun glinted off the tarmac at Denver International Airport, where a sleek AeroSwift Airlines Boeing 737 stood ready for its first flight of the day. Inside the cockpit, Captain Eva Rostova adjusted her crisp navy blue uniform, her pilot's cap resting neatly on the console. At 38, Eva was a veteran of the skies, with over 15,000 flight hours and a reputation for precision. Today marked her first day as AeroSwift's lead captain, the first woman to hold the title in the company's 40-year history. Eva's hazel eyes scanned the instrument panel, her fingers moving with practiced ease. She'd dreamed of this moment since childhood, when her father, a former Air Force pilot, had taken her to air shows. But the weight of being a trailblazer wasn't lost on her. She knew the whispers would come, the sideways glances from those who doubted a woman could command a cockpit. Captain Rostova, ready for pre-flight? First Officer David Kim, a lanky man with a warm smile, slid into the co-pilot seat. His tone was professional but carried a hint of curiosity. "Always Kim," Eva replied, her voice steady. "Let's make this a smooth one." As they ran through the checklist, the cockpit door swung open. Senior Captain Robert "The Rock" Peterson, a grizzled man in his 50s with a permanent scowl, leaned in. His presence filled the small space like a storm cloud. "So, you're the new hotshot," Peterson drawled, his eyes narrowing. "Heard you've got a shiny record. Hope you can handle the real thing." Eva met his gaze, unflinching. "I've handled worse than a 737, Captain." "You'll see." Peterson smirked. "We'll see, all right. This ain't the simulator, sweetheart." David tensed, but Eva's expression didn't waver. "Call me Captain Rostova. And I prefer my coffee black, not sweetened with nicknames." Peterson's smirk faltered. He muttered something under his breath and left. David exhaled. "Guy's a legend around here. Not the friendly type, though." "Legends don't scare me," Eva said, her focus back on the controls. "Let's get this bird in the air." As the plane taxied to the runway, Eva felt the familiar thrill of takeoff. The engines roared, and the world blurred past. But she couldn't shake Peterson's words. She knew her arrival had ruffled feathers among AeroSwift's old guard. The skies were her home, but this new horizon felt like uncharted territory. The crew lounge at AeroSwift's headquarters was a testosterone-fueled sanctuary, walls plastered with faded photos of grinning pilots and vintage planes. Eva stepped inside, her flight bag slung over her shoulder, and the room fell silent. A dozen pairs of eyes tracked her, some curious, others hostile. She grabbed a coffee from the machine and sat at a corner table, pulling out her tablet to review the day's flight plan. Two pilots at the next table, Captain Mark, the Maverick, Donovan, and First Officer Jake Hensley, didn't bother lowering their voices. "First female lead captain," Donovan snorted, tossing a poker chip into the center of their card game. "Bet she's here to check a diversity box. Can she even handle a crosswind landing?" Hensley chuckled. "Heard she's got a temper. Probably why they stuck her with Kim. He's too nice to call her out." Eva's grip tightened on her coffee cup, but she kept her eyes on her tablet. She'd faced this before, male pilots who saw her as an intruder. She'd learned to let her flying do the talking. The lounge door opened, and Peterson swaggered in, his voice booming. "All right, boys, who's ready to lose at poker?" His eyes landed on Eva. "Oh, look, it's Captain Equality. You joining the game, Rostova?" The room snickered. Eva looked up, her voice calm but razor-sharp. "I'd play, but I don't gamble with egos. Too messy." A few pilots coughed to hide their laughs. Peterson's face reddened. "Big talk. Let's see if you last a month." Eva stood, slinging her bag over her shoulder. "I plan to stick around, Captain. Get used to it." As she left, David caught up with her in the hallway. "You sure know how to make friends," he said, half grinning. "They're not my friends yet," Eva replied. "But they'll respect me when I'm done." That night, in her Denver hotel room, Eva stared at the ceiling. The hostility stung, but she'd faced worse in her early years. Instructors who forgot to schedule her simulator time, colleagues who left her out of post-flight drinks. AeroSwift was just another hurdle. She closed her eyes, picturing the open sky. That's where she belonged. 2 weeks into her tenure, Eva was prepping for a red-eye flight to Chicago. The hangar was quiet, save for the clank of tools and the hum of machinery. She ran her hand along the fuselage of her assigned 737, her eyes scanning for anything amiss. Routine checks were second nature, but tonight, something felt off. She flipped open the aircraft's logbook, her brow furrowing. The last maintenance entry, dated 3 days ago, listed a hydraulic issue as resolved. But the details were vague. No parts replaced, no technician's signature. "Hey, Captain Rostova?" A nervous voice interrupted her. Ben Carter, a young mechanic with grease-streaked overalls, stood nearby, clutching a wrench. His eyes darted around the hangar. "Ben, right?" Eva said, closing the logbook. "What's up?" He hesitated, then stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I saw you checking the log. You might want to dig deeper. Some stuff in there, it's not exactly accurate." Eva's pulse quickened. "What do you mean, not accurate?" Ben glanced over his shoulder. "Creative accounting, you know? They push us to sign off on fixes that aren't fully fixed." I shouldn't be saying this." "Who's they?" Eva pressed, her voice low but firm. "Management. Maintenance supervisors. I don't know how high it goes." Ben's hands shook. "Look, I got a kid. I need this job. Just be careful, okay?" Before Eva could respond, a supervisor's voice barked across the hangar. "Carter, get back to work." Ben scurried off, leaving Eva with the logbook. She reopened it, her mind racing. If Ben was right, this wasn't just sloppy paperwork, it was dangerous. She snapped a photo of the entry with her phone, her gut telling her this was only the beginning. Back in the cockpit, David noticed her tension. "You look like you saw a ghost," he said, buckling into his seat. "Not a ghost," Eva murmured. "Maybe a skeleton." Over the next week, Eva became a detective in a pilot's uniform. Between flights, she pored over logbooks from other aircraft, often late into the night. What started as a hunch grew into a chilling pattern. Vague maintenance entries, unresolved issues marked as fixed, and recurring problems, like hydraulic leaks and electrical glitches, brushed off as within tolerances. One evening, in the crew lounge, Eva spread out a stack of printed log pages on a table. David joined her, his usual easygoing demeanor replaced by concern. "This can't be right," he said, scanning a report. "This plane had a landing gear issue 2 weeks ago, but it's listed as inspected, no action needed." "I flew that one yesterday. It felt sluggish." Eva nodded, circling another entry. "Look at this. 3 planes, same electrical fault, same week. All resolved, with no parts replaced. That's not maintenance, that's a cover-up." David leaned back, running a hand through his hair. "Why would they risk it? AeroSwift's got a solid rep." "Money," Eva said flatly. "Cutting corners saves millions. Until something goes wrong." Their conversation was cut short by Donovan's voice from across the lounge. "What's this, Rostova? Studying for your captain's exam again?" He sauntered over, smirking. "Or you just love paperwork?" Eva didn't look up. "Just making sure my passengers get home safe, Donovan. You should try it." He laughed, but it was forced. "Don't get too cozy playing hero. This place has a way of chewing up people who poke around." As Donovan walked away, David whispered, "He's not wrong. You're stepping on toes." Eva's jaw tightened. "Good. Maybe they'll trip." That night, she emailed her sister, Dr. Lena Rostova, a lawyer in Boston. "Found something weird at work. Might need your brain." Lena's reply was instant. "Call me. Now." Eva's next flight was a short hop to Phoenix, and David Kim was her co-pilot again. As they cruised at 35,000 feet, the autopilot humming, David broke the silence. "I've been thinking about those logs," he said, glancing at her. "I've seen stuff too. Last month, a plane I was on had a fuel gauge glitch. Maintenance said it was fine, but it kept happening. I reported it, and they told me to stop overreacting." Eva turned to him, surprised. "Why didn't you say anything before?" David shrugged, his eyes on the horizon. "I'm just a first officer. Nobody listens to me. But you're different. You're not afraid to push. She studied him, seeing the resolve beneath his quiet demeanor. You're in this now, Kim. You sure? He grinned, a spark in his eyes. Hell yeah. Let's nail these bastards. Back on the ground, Eva met David at a diner near the airport, away from prying eyes. Over greasy burgers, they strategized. We need hard evidence, Eva said, sketching a plan on a napkin. Screenshots, photos, anything that can't be denied. David nodded. I know a guy in IT who might help with digital records. But we gotta be careful. If Thorne's involved. Thorne. Eva interrupted. Vice President of Operations, David said. Guy's got a reputation for squashing complaints. If he's in on this, it's big. As they left the diner, Eva's phone buzzed, a text from Ben Carter. Meet me at Hangar 3, midnight. Got something you need to see. At midnight, Eva slipped into the darkened hangar, her heart pounding. Ben emerged from the shadows, holding a USB drive. This has everything, he whispered, his voice trembling. Encrypted files, emails, the works. They're faking maintenance to save cash. But if they catch me... They won't, Eva promised, taking the drive. You're doing the right thing, Ben. As she left, headlights swept across the hangar. Eva ducked behind a crate, her breath catching. A security guard's flashlight beam passed inches from her. When the coast was clear, she slipped out, the USB drive burning a hole in her pocket. The dim glow of Eva Rostova's laptop illuminated her hotel room in Seattle, where she'd landed after a late flight. It was 2 a.m., but sleep was a distant thought. The USB drive Ben Carter had given her sat on the desk, a tiny device holding secrets that could ground an airline. Eva plugged it in, her fingers trembling as she entered the password Ben had whispered, Skyfall 2025. The screen filled with folders, hundreds of them, labeled with aircraft tail numbers and dates. Eva clicked one at random, revealing a chain of emails between maintenance supervisors. Her eyes widened as she read, Sign off on the hydraulic fix for N732AS. No parts needed. Keep costs down per Thorne's orders. Another email, dated a week later, flagged the same plane for a recurring leak, yet it was marked resolved without repair. Thorne, Eva muttered. David Kim had mentioned him, Vice President of Operations, a man with a reputation for silencing dissent. She opened another folder, finding scanned maintenance logs with forged signatures. Her stomach churned. This wasn't just corner-cutting, it was systemic fraud. A knock at the door jolted her. She snapped the laptop shut, her pulse racing. Who's there? It's David, came a muffled voice. Eva opened the door to find her co-pilot, his face pale. You didn't answer my texts. Everything okay? She pulled him inside, locking the door. Ben came through. Big time. She showed him the files, watching his expression shift from shock to anger. This is worse than I thought, David said, scrolling through an email directing mechanics to reuse worn parts. They're playing Russian roulette with passengers' lives. Eva nodded, her jaw tight. We need to copy this and get it somewhere safe. If they find out we have it. They won't, David interrupted. I've got a friend in IT, Rachel. She can set up an encrypted cloud backup. But we're in deep now, Eva. No turning back. As David left to contact Rachel, Eva stared at the USB drive. The weight of what she'd uncovered hit her like turbulence. She wasn't just fighting sexism anymore. She was up against a corporate machine. The next evening, Eva and David met in a deserted airport cafe, the clatter of dishes masking their conversation. Eva had spent the day sifting through Ben's files, and what she'd found kept her awake. She slid a tablet across the table, displaying a folder labeled Closed Incidents. Read this, she said, her voice low. 3 AeroSwift planes involved in incidents over the past 5 years. All written off as pilot error or weather. But look at the maintenance logs. David scanned the reports. One incident involved a 737 losing hydraulic pressure mid-flight, forcing an emergency landing. The log showed a similar issue reported weeks earlier, marked fixed. Another case, a near crash due to electrical failure, had identical red flags. These weren't accidents, David whispered, his face ashen. They knew the planes weren't safe. Eva nodded. And they buried it. The pilots took the fall, and AeroSwift kept flying. David leaned forward, his voice intense. My old co-pilot, Captain Harris, was on one of those flights. He's retired, but he never bought the company's excuse. Said the plane was a death trap. We need to talk to him, Eva said. And anyone else who'll corroborate this. As they planned, a shadow fell over their table. Captain Peterson loomed, his eyes cold. Late-night study group, huh? He said, glancing at the tablet. Careful, Rostova. Digging up dirt can get you grounded. Eva met his gaze, her voice steady. I'm just doing my job, Peterson. Making sure my planes are safe. He smirked, leaning closer. Your job's to fly, not play whistleblower. Thorne doesn't like loose cannons. As Peterson walked away, David muttered, He knows something. Eva's grip tightened on her coffee mug. Or he's scared we do. She sent a text to Lena, found proof of covered-up crashes. Need legal advice ASAP. The stakes were higher than ever, and Eva felt the ground shifting beneath her. Eva's next flight was a turbulent one, both in the air and in her mind. As the plane touched down in Dallas, she lingered in the cockpit, replaying Peterson's warning. She was rattled but determined. If AeroSwift was hiding near disasters, she needed more than files, she needed voices. In the crew lounge, Eva overheard flight attendant Sarah Miller venting to a colleague. I reported a weird vibration on my last flight, and maintenance told me it was normal. Normal? It felt like the plane was shaking apart. Eva approached, her tone casual. Hey, Sarah, mind if I join you? Sarah hesitated, then nodded. Over coffee, she opened up. It's not just vibrations. Last month, we had a cabin pressure warning mid-flight. Passengers were freaking out, but management called it a glitch. I've seen this stuff too often. Eva leaned in, her voice soft. How often? Sarah glanced around, then whispered, Every few weeks. Flickering lights, weird noises, you name it. I file reports, but they vanish. It's like they don't want to know. Eva's heart sank. The cabin crew were the eyes and ears of the plane, and their concerns were being ignored. Sarah, would you be willing to document this? Unofficially. Sarah bit her lip. I could lose my job. I know, Eva said. But if we don't speak up, someone could lose their life. After a long pause, Sarah nodded. Okay. I'm in. Later, Eva met David at a park near the airport, away from AeroSwift's watchful eyes. She filled him in on Sarah's stories, and he shared his own progress. Rachel's backing up the files to a secure server. And Harris agreed to talk. He's got logs from his incident. Eva felt a spark of hope. We're building a case, David. Piece by piece. As they parted, Eva's phone buzzed, a voicemail from Ben. His voice was panicked. They're on to me, Captain. I heard my supervisor talking about cleaning up leaks. Watch your back. The message cut off abruptly, leaving Eva's blood cold. Back in her hotel room, Eva dialed her sister, Lena, on a secure video call. Lena's sharp features appeared on the screen, her lawyer's mind already in overdrive. Eva, you're sitting on a powder keg. Falsified logs, covered-up incidents. This could take down AeroSwift. Eva recounted everything. Ben's files, the accident reports, Sarah's testimony. I'm scared, Lena. They're watching us. Ben's in trouble, and Peterson's breathing down my neck. Lena's eyes narrowed. You need to protect yourself. First, make multiple copies of the evidence, physical and digital. Store them off-site. Second, don't trust internal channels. Companies like this have ways of burying complaints. What about going public? Eva asked. Not yet, Lena said. You need airtight proof. One hole, and they'll tear you apart. I know a journalist, Alex Riley. He's taken down corporations before. I'll feel him out, but you need more witnesses. Eva nodded, her resolve hardening. I've got David, Sarah, maybe Harris. And Ben, if he's safe. Check on him, Lena urged. And Eva, Don't fly any plane you don't trust. If they're cutting corners, you're a target. The call ended, and Eva stared at her reflection in the darkened window. Lena's words echoed, "You're a target." She'd always faced headwinds as a woman in aviation, but this was different. This was war. She texted Ben, "You okay? Call me." No reply. Her unease grew, but she pushed it aside. Tomorrow, she'd track him down. For now, she copied the USB files to a hidden drive, stashing it in her suitcase. The truth was her weapon, and she'd guard it with her life. Eva's next day off was anything but restful. She and David met Sarah at a crowded mall food court, blending into the chaos. Sarah slid a notebook across the table, filled with dates, flight numbers, and detailed accounts of mechanical issues. "This is everything I've seen," she said, her voice steady despite her nervous glances. Vibrations, pressure drops, even a fire warning that got swept under the rug. Eva flipped through the pages, impressed. "This is gold, Sarah." "Thank you." David added his own contribution, photos of a maintenance hangar, snapped covertly. "Look at this, reused parts, some rusted. They're not even hiding it." Eva's phone buzzed, a text from Rachel, David's IT friend, "File secure. Found deleted emails on server. Sending soon." Eva's heart raced. The net was tightening. That afternoon, Eva tracked down Ben at his apartment, a rundown complex near the airport. He opened the door, his face haggard. "They're auditing my work," he whispered, letting her in. "Someone tipped them off." "Was it Peterson?" Eva asked. Ben shook his head. "Higher up. I heard my boss mention Thorne. They're cleaning house." Eva handed him a burner phone. "Use this to contact me. Lay low, Ben. We're close." Back at her hotel, Eva recorded a conversation with David, capturing their suspicions about Thorne. She added it to their growing dossier. Sarah's notebook, David's photos, Ben's files, and now Rachel's emails. The evidence was damning, but they needed one final push. That night, Eva dreamed of a plane spiraling through storm clouds, her hands useless on the controls. She woke in a cold sweat, Peterson's smirk flashing in her mind. Tomorrow, she'd confront the beast head-on. AeroSwift's secrets were about to see daylight. Eva Rostova stood outside the glass-walled office of AeroSwift's Vice President of Operations, Richard Thorne, at the airline's Denver headquarters. Her dossier, photos, emails, Sarah's notebook, and Ben's encrypted files, was tucked in her briefcase, a ticking bomb of truth. She'd requested this meeting to test the waters, to see if AeroSwift would listen before she went public. But her gut told her this wouldn't end with handshakes. Thorne, a wiry man in his 60s with a politician's charm, gestured her to a leather chair. "Captain Rostova, I hear you're settling in. What brings you here?" Eva sat, her voice calm but steel-edged. "I found irregularities in aircraft maintenance. Falsified logs, ignored repairs, reused parts. It's endangering passengers and crews." Thorne's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Strong claims. Got proof?" She slid a slim folder across his desk, redacted copies of Ben's files, enough to show she wasn't bluffing but not the full arsenal. "This is just a sample. Hydraulic leaks marked fixed without repairs, electrical issues buried. I've tracked this across 24 planes." Thorne skimmed the pages, his face unreadable. "Maintenance is complex, Eva. Paperwork gets messy. You're new. Maybe you're overreacting." "Don't patronize me," Eva snapped. "I've flown 15,000 hours. These aren't typos, they're lies. And then there's the closed incidents, crashes near the crash blamed on pilots to hide your shortcuts." His eyes flicked up, a flash of something, anger, perhaps fear. "You're treading on thin ice, Captain. Accusing a company like AeroSwift without solid evidence is career suicide." "I want these planes inspected," Eva pressed. "Properly. Or I'll take this higher." Thorne leaned forward, his voice a low growl. "You think you're a crusader? People who stir up trouble here don't last. Go back to your cockpit, fly your planes, and leave the business to us." Eva stood, grabbing her folder. "This isn't business, Thorne. It's lives." As she left, his parting words chilled her. Watch your step, Rostova. Accidents happen. In the elevator, Eva's phone buzzed, a text from David Kim, Ben's gone. Apartment empty. Something's wrong. Her heart sank. Thorne's threat wasn't idle, and Ben was paying the price. She needed to move fast. Eva met David and Sarah in a dimly lit bar far from the airport, the jukebox drowning out their words. David's face was grim as he recounted visiting Ben's apartment. Door was ajar, place trashed. His phone's off. I think they got to him. Sarah clutched her glass, her voice shaky. What if they come for us next? They won't, Eva said, though her own fear gnawed at her. We're too close. They can't silence all of us. She pulled out her phone and dialed Lena. Her sister's voice crackled through. Eva, I've got a plan. Alex Riley, the journalist I mentioned, he's interested. He's broken stories like this before. Enron, Big Pharma. He'll protect your anonymity. Eva glanced at her allies. What does he need? Everything, Lena said. Files, photos, testimonies. But you have to be sure. Once this goes public, there's no hiding. David nodded. I'm in. Harris sent me his old logs. They match your accident files. He's ready to talk. Sarah hesitated, then squared her shoulders. I'll do it. For the passengers. Eva exhaled. Okay, Lena. Set it up. That night, Eva uploaded the dossier to a secure link Lena provided, her fingers hovering over send. Ben's disappearance haunted her. Was he safe, or had AeroSwift made him vanish? She hit the button, the files zipping into the void. No turning back now. The next morning, Eva's phone rang. Lena, her voice urgent. Alex got the files. He's meeting his editor today. This could break in 48 hours. Eva's relief was cut short by a knock at her hotel door. She peered through the peephole. Captain Peterson, his face a mask of menace. She didn't open it, but his voice carried through. You're playing a dangerous game, Rostova. Drop it, or you'll crash and burn. Alex Riley's newsroom in Chicago buzzed with urgency as he pitched the AeroSwift story to his editor, Karen Voss. Eva's dossier lay open on the desk, photos of rusted parts, falsified logs, and Sarah's handwritten accounts. Alex, a wiry man with a nose for corruption, leaned forward. This is bigger than Enron, Karen. AeroSwift's been dodging safety for years. Crashes covered up, whistleblowers silenced. Voss skimmed an email from Thorne ordering cost cuts. If this checks out, it's a bombshell. But we need corroboration. One leak won't cut it. I've got a retired pilot ready to talk, Alex said. And my source says more crew members will come forward once it breaks. Voss nodded. Run it. Front page. 48 hours. Back in Denver, Eva flew a routine flight to Miami, her nerves taut. Peterson's threat echoed, and Ben's absence weighed heavy. In the cockpit, David sensed her tension. You okay, Captain? Just waiting for the storm, Eva said, her eyes on the horizon. Alex has the story. It's happening. David grinned. About time these bastards get what's coming. As they landed, Eva's phone buzzed, a text from Lena. Alex's editor greenlit it. Story drops tomorrow. But another message followed, from an unknown number. You can't hide, Rostova. Stop now, or you're done. Eva showed David, her jaw tight. They're scared. Good, he said. Scared people make mistakes. That night, Eva couldn't sleep. She pictured Ben, alone and hunted. She texted Rachel, David's IT friend, any trace of Ben? Rachel's reply was grim. His employee ID was deactivated. No digital footprint. He's a ghost. Eva's fear hardened into resolve. The story was her weapon, and tomorrow it would strike. The morning the story broke, Eva woke to a flood of notifications. Alex Riley's exposé screamed across headlines, AeroSwift Airlines, a sky of lies. The article detailed falsified maintenance, covered-up incidents, and Thorne's cost-cutting directives, backed by Eva's evidence. Social media erupted, passengers vowing to boycott, and regulators promising probes. At AeroSwift's headquarters, chaos reigned. Eva arrived for her shift, only to be summoned to HR. A stone-faced manager, flanked by security, handed her a termination notice. Effective immediately, Captain Rostova, for violating company policy. Eva laughed bitterly. Policy? You mean exposing your lies? The manager didn't flinch. Sign here. Your access is revoked. Outside, reporters swarmed, microphones thrusting toward her. Eva kept her head high, saying only, "The truth is out. That's what matters." But AeroSwift fought back. By noon, a smear campaign flooded X and news outlets. Anonymous posts called Eva a disgruntled employee with a history of instability. A doctored video surfaced, showing her arguing with Peterson, edited to make her seem unhinged. David texted her, "They're throwing everything at you. Stay strong." Eva met Sarah and David at a safe house Lena had arranged, a nondescript apartment outside Denver. Sarah was shaken. "They're saying I faked my reports. My family's getting hate mail." David slammed a fist on the table. "They're desperate. We hit a nerve." Lena called, her voice steady. "The FAA's launching an investigation. Alex is digging into Thorne's finances. You've got them on the ropes, Eva." But the cost was mounting. Eva's phone buzzed with another threat, "Your sister's next." Her blood ran cold. She texted Lena, "Get somewhere safe. Now." The exposé's fallout was seismic. By evening, X was ablaze with #AeroSwiftScandal, trending globally. Passengers shared stories of shaky flights, while former mechanics posted photos of shoddy repairs, emboldened by Eva's courage. News channels looped Alex's article, with pundits demanding accountability. Eva watched from the safe house, her laptop streaming CNN. A breaking news banner flashed, "FAA grounds 40% of AeroSwift fleet for emergency inspections." David whooped, but Eva stayed quiet, her thoughts on Ben. Was he alive? Sarah scrolled X, her eyes wide. "Look at this, a mechanic just posted an email from Thorne, ordering them to skip inspections. It's going viral." Eva's phone rang. Alex Riley. "You've started a revolution, Captain. We're getting tips from all over. Pilots, crew, even execs. Thorne's days are numbered." "What about Ben Carter?" Eva asked. "He's missing." Alex paused. "I've got a source checking. If he's out there, we'll find him." That night, Eva stepped onto the apartment's balcony, the city lights below a stark contrast to her turmoil. She'd exposed AeroSwift, but at what cost? Her career was in tatters, her allies were targeted, and Ben was gone. Yet the public's outrage gave her hope. She wasn't alone anymore. David joined her, his voice soft. "You did it, Eva. You grounded their lies." "Not yet," she said, her eyes fierce. "Not until Thorne's in cuffs and Ben's safe." As she spoke, her phone lit up, a message from Rachel, "Found Ben. He's alive, hiding. Meet tomorrow." Eva's heart leaped. The fight wasn't over, but the tide was turning. The Denver skyline shimmered under a dawn haze, but inside the safe house, Eva Rostova felt the weight of a storm. AeroSwift Airlines had grounded nearly half its fleet, over 70 planes, after the FAA's emergency order, triggered by Alex Riley's exposé. News channels blared images of stranded passengers and plummeting stock prices. Eva, David Kim, and Sarah Miller watched CNN, the tension palpable. "They're bleeding money," David said, scrolling X. #AeroSwift scandals trending harder than ever. "People are furious." Sarah hugged her knees, her voice quiet. "Good. But what about us? They trashed Eva's name, and I'm getting death threats." Eva's phone buzzed. "Rachel, David's IT ally. Meet me at the old warehouse, 8 a.m. Ben's there." Eva's heart raced. Ben Carter, the mechanic who'd risked everything, was alive. At the warehouse, a cavernous relic near the airport, Eva found Ben huddled in a corner, his face gaunt. "They came for me," he whispered, clutching a backpack. "Thorne's goons. I barely got out." Eva knelt beside him. "You're safe now. We're taking them down." Ben handed her a new USB drive. More files. Emails between Thorne and the CFO, fudging financials to hide maintenance cuts. "It's enough to bury them." Back at the safe house, Eva uploaded the files to Alex. Lena called, her lawyer's voice sharp. The FAA's raiding AeroSwift's offices. Your evidence is airtight, Eva. They can't wiggle out. But AeroSwift wasn't done fighting. That afternoon, Eva's phone lit up with a leaked memo, circulated on X, accusing her of fabricating evidence for personal gain. David slammed his laptop shut. They're desperate. This won't stick. Eva stared out the window, her resolve ironclad. Let them try. The truth's louder than their lies. As night fell, a news alert flashed. AeroSwift CEO resigns amid scandal. The dominoes were falling, but Eva knew Thorne was still in play. She wouldn't rest until he faced justice. The FAA's investigation hit AeroSwift like a hurricane. Inspectors swarmed hangars, seizing logbooks and grounding more planes. Eva watched from the sidelines, her termination still stinging, but hope flickered as former colleagues stepped forward. On X, #SpeakUpAeroSwift trended, with mechanics and pilots sharing stories of coerced sign-offs and ignored warnings. Eva met Captain Harris, David's retired co-pilot, at a quiet diner. His weathered hands trembled as he slid a worn notebook across the table. My logs from the 2020 near crash. Electrical failure, just like your files. They blamed me, but I knew it was the plane. Your story matters, Eva said. Will you testify? Harris nodded, his eyes fierce. For the pilots they ruined. Damn right. Alex Riley's follow-up article hit that evening, featuring Harris and 3 anonymous mechanics. The public outcry grew deafening, with protests outside AeroSwift's headquarters. Lena texted Eva, class action lawsuit filed by passengers. You're a hero. But danger lingered. David intercepted a call from Rachel. Thorne's hired a fixer to discredit you. They're digging into your past. Eva's military record was clean, but she worried about Lena and her allies. She moved Ben to a new safe house, her nerves frayed. That night, Eva joined David and Sarah to review Ben's new files. An email from Thorne to the CFO stood out. If the FAA digs too deep, we shift blame to the mechanics. Carter's a good scapegoat. Eva's blood boiled. They're throwing Ben under the bus. David clenched his fists. We need to protect him. And nail Thorne. As they planned, Eva's phone rang, an unknown number. A distorted voice hissed, "Back off, Rostova, or your sister pays." Eva froze, the threat cutting deep. The fight was personal now. The FBI joined the FAA's probe, and AeroSwift's house of cards collapsed. Alex Riley's third article exposed Thorne's financial cover-up, backed by Ben's new files. Raids hit AeroSwift's C-suite, and Thorne was arrested at his mansion, cameras capturing his scowl. The CFO and 2 maintenance directors followed, charged with criminal negligence and fraud. Eva watched the arrests on TV, relief mixing with exhaustion. David cracked a rare smile. You did this, Captain. You grounded their lies. Not alone, Eva said, glancing at Sarah and Ben, who joined them at the safe house. Ben looked stronger, his fear giving way to pride. I just lit the spark. The FAA revoked Captain Peterson's and Donovan's licenses after their own log surfaced, showing they'd ignored mechanical issues for bonuses. Peterson's X account went silent, his bravado crushed. Donovan issued a public apology, but it rang hollow. Lena arrived in Denver, hugging Eva tightly. You're unstoppable, sis. But you scared me half to death. Eva laughed, her first in weeks. You and me both. Alex called with news. The DOJ's building a case against AeroSwift's board. Your testimony could seal it. And Ben's safe, FBI's got him in protective custody. That evening, Eva addressed a crowd of whistleblowers at a rally outside the FAA's regional office. We fly to keep people safe, she said, her voice steady. No one, not Thorne, not AeroSwift, gets to gamble with lives. The crowd roared, chanting her name. But Eva's thoughts drifted to the passengers who'd trusted AeroSwift, unaware of the risks. She vowed to ensure it never happened again. As she left the stage, a text from Lena lit her phone. Congress wants you to testify. Ready to change the law. Eva smiled. The sky was calling. AeroSwift's collapse was final. The airline filed for bankruptcy, its operating license revoked by the FAA. Airports once buzzing with its planes stood quiet, a testament to Eva's courage. She became a national figure, her face on Time's cover, the pilot who saved the skies. In Washington, D.C., Eva testified before Congress, her dossier now public record. She faced senators with the same calm she brought to the cockpit. AeroSwift prioritized profit over safety, she said, holding up a photo of a rusted landing gear. This isn't just one airline's failure, it's a warning. We need stricter oversight, mandatory whistleblower protections, and real consequences. Her words sparked reform. The Aviation Safety Act of 2025, co-drafted by Eva, passed with bipartisan support, mandating independent maintenance audits and shielding employees who reported violations. Lena, now her legal advisor, beamed as Eva signed the bill's ceremonial copy. Back in Denver, Eva visited Ben, now free and working for a new airline. "You saved me, Captain," he said, his daughter clinging to his leg. "I owe you everything." "You saved yourself," Eva replied. "And a lot of others." David and Sarah joined them for dinner, their bond forged in fire. David had been promoted to captain, while Sarah led a union push for cabin crew rights. "To Eva," David toasted, raising a glass. "The toughest pilot I know." Eva smiled, but her mind was on the future. The skies were safer, but the fight for equality lingered. She'd never forget Peterson's sneers or Thorne's threats. They fueled her next mission. 2 years later, Eva Rostova stood in her new office at FAA headquarters, the first woman to head its flight operations division. Her walls held framed articles of AeroSwift's fall, a photo with Lena, and her old pilot's cap, a reminder of her roots. At 40, she'd reshaped aviation, but her journey wasn't over. Her days were filled with policy briefings, safety audits, and mentoring young pilots, especially women. "Don't wait for a seat in the cockpit," she told a cadet class. "Take it. The sky's yours." Eva also ran a consultancy, advising airlines on safety and inclusion. Her TED Talk, Wings of Truth, had millions of views, inspiring whistleblowers worldwide. She stayed close to her allies, David, now a training captain, Sarah, a union leader, and Ben, thriving with his family. Alex Riley's book on the scandal, dedicated to Eva, topped bestseller lists. One evening, Eva flew a private plane over Colorado's Rockies, the sunset painting the peaks gold. The controls felt like home, the turbulence of her AeroSwift days a distant memory. She thought of her father, who'd taught her to soar, and Lena, who'd kept her grounded. Her radio crackled, Lena's voice, patched through by ATC. "You're making history, sis. Dad would be proud." Eva smiled, her eyes on the horizon. He'd say, "Keep climbing." As she banked toward home, Eva reflected on her triumph. She'd faced discrimination, exposed a deadly scandal, and changed an industry. No pilot, man or woman, would ever have to wait outside their rightful place again. The skies were clearer now, and Eva Rostova was still soaring. The end.